Hello, thanks for joining the Maze this week. I am Rosemary Ukokotega. Our top stories. National Assembly reconsider voting on failed women bills. House of Representatives declares national emergency on ritual killings in the country. And National Assembly tackled Power Ministry over nationwide blackout. You can hook up to us anywhere through all our platforms on www.asoradioandtv.com/live, StarTimes TV channel 127, Free TV channel 507, and the UHF band is channel 38. You can download our app for Android at the Google Play Store, and for iOS devices, download the app at the App Store. Join us after the break for this and more.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite. This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television StarTimes Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, and UHF Channel 30.
We go ahead with details of all our stories. The House of Representatives has agreed to reconsider the 3 women-related bills which earlier failed to scale through during the voting on the 1999 Constitution Amendment clauses. Speaker of the House, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, announced the development shortly after a closed-door session at resumed plenary. He listed the 3 bills to be reconsidered in the coming weeks by the lawmakers as expansion of the scope of citizenship by registration, 35% affirmative action for women in political party and administration, as well as qualification to become an indigene of a state in Nigeria.
The House, in its wisdom, has decided to take a course of action for the good of the country. And that action is to rescind 3 of the decisions that were taken on that day, and after the rescission, release them on the next set of amendments coming up. I believe, Deputy Speaker, in the next 4 weeks, within the next 4 weeks, they will come up again for voting. But the important thing is that we rescind 3 of those decisions. So I guess it's just to put the question now, correct? All right. Those in support that those 3 bills or decisions be rescinded, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Gbajabiamila further stated that after the reconsideration, any differences with the Senate would be harmonized. Now, the park sector in the country has in recent times formed topic among many groups who seem to be looking for ways of reviving it. The National Assembly, as an arm of the government, is deploying legislative procedure to arrest the situation. At the Red Chamber, senators convened a public hearing for stakeholders. 36 state governors and Minister of Power, Alhaji Abubakar Aliyu, picked holes on the draft Electricity Bill 2022. Correspondent Topsy Gimba reports that the governors, through a statement signed by their chairman, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, said the proposed legislation is unconstitutional in view of the federal status of Nigeria. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has asked the Ministry of Power to quickly come up with practicable interventions to end the current nationwide blackout. The House Committee on Power, led by its chairman, Mr. Magaji Aliyu, at an interactive section with the ministry, frowned at what it described as the seeming lackadaisical and fire brigade attitude of the ministry during national power emergencies.
The chair of this committee, this presentation is more of a theory or a thesis for a master's in electrical engineering degree award. There is nothing in this to show that we are really trying to resolve the issue. We were told severally that we have 30,000 megawatts capacity in this country. Our problem was transmission and distribution. Today we have no transmission, no generation. So where is the balance of the 25,000 production? So I believed there is much to this problem. I thought in your presentation, Honorable Minister, you tell me that you have already established a war room whereby you are talking with everybody 24/7 to ensure this problem is resolved. There's nothing like it here. My heart bleeds for this country. We may never have it right, probably during our time. Because from this presentation, there is nothing to show that there is going to be light at 5,000 megawatt tomorrow. That's the committee's remarks and observation.
Now, representative of the Minister of Power, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Nebolisa Anoka, had in his presentation outlined the challenges the ministry is battling with.
The current problems are due to disruptions in some gas plants. Despite proactive actions that were earlier planned to ramp up generation by thermal gas plants at this period in anticipation of low water level at the hydropower stations, the events that led to low power generation experienced in the last few weeks are as itemized. Let me go through it one by one. The Okpai power plant, operated by the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company and owned under the NNPC joint venture, was shut down due to gas pipeline sabotage on March 6, 2022. This caused a loss of 400 megawatts on the grid. The Ibom power plant was also recently shut down due to a faulty repair by the original equipment manufacturer. This caused 120 megawatts loss. The AFAM 6 power plant is running at a third of its capacity due to low gas supply from Okoloma, the gas pipeline, and this caused a loss of about 400 megawatts.
Now, the committee, which expressed dissatisfaction with the explanation of the ministry, dismissed the permanent secretary to return on a later date with more practical evidence of intended interventions, insisting that it is more concerned with why the country is in the present power predicament. Still from the Green Chamber, lawmakers are now working towards improving living standards of widows in the country. A bill seeking an amendment to an existing law, the Violence Against Persons Act 2015, which seeks to correct some anomalies against widows, passed second reading on the floor of the House. The report. The amendment bill to prohibit discrimination in all forms of repressive and degrading womanhood practices in the country is being sponsored by Mr. Adejero Adeogun and Mr. Sejos Ogun. Mr. Adeogun, in his lead debate, pointed out the harsh experiences of widows in several parts of the country at the departure of their husbands.
When a man dies at the age of 100, sometimes the widows are treated like murderers because the man who has attained the right age or age of 100 years dies. Unfortunately, most of these people are denied, widows are denied access to properties, in some cases denied access to their own children for reasons that have no place or die in Nigerian law. Widowhood is not a choice. Widows are victims of the inevitability of death. So, why does our society criminalize the unfortunate incident of widowhood? Why are widows denied the right to mourn in peace? Why is the trauma of their loss met with more trauma rather than solace?
He, however, expressed confidence in the principles of the bill to eliminate the practices.
I believe that we have a duty to right this wrong. These are our mothers, sisters, aunties, friends, colleagues, and they deserve our protection. This bill, when passed, will be recorded in history as one of the most important legislation passed by this ninth assembly. We will have succeeded in metaphorically giving to the widows in our nation what could be described as the widow's mite.
The bill received majority support and was passed for second reading.
The question now is that the bill be read second time. Those people say aye, against say nay. That's it.
Rosemary Kokotega, ASO Television News. Also within the same period, representatives declared a national emergency on ritual killings in the country. The House, which was adopting a motion on the subject by Deputy Minority Leader Mr. Tobi Okechukwu, also asked the Inspector General of Police to urgently increase surveillance and intelligence gathering with a view to apprehending and prosecuting all the perpetrators of the crime in the country. Mr. Okechukwu had expressed worry over the recent alarming rate of incidents of ritual killings in the country, recalling a Red Cross report of 2017 stating that there were 10,480 cases of missing persons in Nigeria. He pointed out social media as a major channel used by perpetrators of the evil acts, just as he faulted some dramatized scenes in the movie industry. The House further called on the media, National Orientation Agency, parents, heads of schools, as well as religious leaders to embark on campaigns to change the negative trend. The House also asked the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board to increase monitoring of videos produced with ritual killing scenes and apply due censorship. Still on issues bordering on security and lives of the citizenry, a senator representing Benue South, Senator Abba Moro, has called on the federal government to establish military base at the boundary between the Ebonyi and Benue states, following communal clash between the people of Iza in Benue and Efong in Ebonyi state. Senator Abba Moro made the call following a matter of urgent national importance on the sack of Iza community in Benue State, allegedly done by a well-coordinated attack by armed militias from Ebonyi State. He said with the discovery of natural resources, people of the community have come under heavy attack, suffering killings and maiming of people, including children. The senator disclosed that the community is now a ghost town and no security presence to protect them. Senator Abba Moro, who noted that high-level talks have been held between the governments of Ebonyi and Benue states with no end in sight, expressed worry that the people could resort to self-defense if nothing urgently is done. Correspondent Topsy Gimba reports that Iza community borders Ebonyi State and endowed with mineral resources. Two bills seeking to enhance capabilities of youth in the country are steadily progressing at the House of Representatives. The bills to establish a trust fund and a youth entrepreneurship development trust fund for the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) gained acceptance of stakeholders in the education sector during a public hearing organized by the House Committee on Youth Development. Director General NYSC Major General Shuaibu Ibrahim, while making a presentation at the session, noted the capability of the trust fund empowering corps members towards self-reliance and appealed for more support for the bill and for quick passage, with other stakeholders agreeing in favor. In his remarks, the chairman of the House Committee on Youth Development, Mr. Yemi Adaramodu, called for training and retraining of NYSC staff, as well as the organization of skills acquisitions programs for corps members. The Speaker of the House, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, had earlier, while declaring the hearing open through his representative, Leader of the House, Mr. Alhassan Adodogua, urged his colleagues to ensure that all recommendations cover prevailing circumstances as well as reflect the well-thought-out contemplation of objective realities and alternatives. The proposed legislations are sponsored by Mr. Samuel Akin-Folarin and Mr. Farah Dagogo, respectively. Stakeholders in the education sector kicked against the Federal Unity Schools Establishment Bill 2022 and the National Examination Management Commission 2022. This followed a public hearing organized by the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education in Abuja. Correspondent Topsy Gimba covered the public hearing and now completes the story.
The public hearing, which was chaired by Senator Okon Yakanye, PDP Akwa Ibom State, said the two bills were motions sponsored by Senator Bima Enagi, Niger State APC, and Senator Kabir Birkia, APC Katsina State, is aimed at providing a legal framework for the unity schools in Nigeria and the establishment of Examination Management Commission. Speaking, the Minister of Education, Mala Ademu Ademu, who was represented at the occasion by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Mr. David Genda, said the bill, when passed into law, would duplicate the functions of the Federal Ministry of Education, which is the mother ministry. Malam Ademu Ademu urged the Senate to declare the bills as it creates conflict with current educational policies, confuses operations of tertiary institutions with that of secondary schools.
Each examination body have their technical peculiarities and well-defined levels of autonomy and diversity, well entrenched in the coverage of their enabling acts.
He advised the federal government to establish more model schools that will meet the yearnings of Nigerians. The Registrar Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, Professor Ishak Oluyede, said that there is actually no problem with the current examination bodies in the country, as they are all doing well.
So my suggestion is that these two sponsors, they have demonstrated clearly that they care for education. And they have demonstrated clearly that they are thinking for this nation.
Also, Mr. Patrick Arena, the head of WAEC Nigeria, that the bill will make room for counterproductivity as all examining bodies have governing boards. Others who called for the discarding of the bill are NECO, UBEC, NECT, NAPTEP, NUT, Unity School All Students Association, USOSA, among others. The sponsor of the bill, Federal Unity Schools Establishment Bill 2022, Senator Bima Mohammed Inagi, APC Niger State, thanked their stakeholders for their contributions and promised that all necessary changes will be carried out on the said bill, while noting that the aim of the bill is to have a legal framework that will protect unity schools.
They highlighted areas of the bill, there's some provisions of the bill that need improvement. I fully agree with them that yes, those areas need some improvement. And just as I said during the public hearing, we are human beings, we are not perfect. And you are someone, you write something today, and you look at it tomorrow, you see that there are areas that you could have actually improved upon whatever you wrote earlier. And that is the idea. They are fully in support of the bill. And we will work together within the next 2 weeks to see the areas of improvement.
Topsy Gimba, ASO Television News.
The House of Representatives has asked for an investigation into allegations of deplorable conditions of inmates and poor working conditions of staff at the different correctional centers in the country. This, the House pointed out, is notwithstanding the over 165 billion naira budget allocations to the service in the last 2 years. Lawmakers, while considering an urgent motion on the subject by the Minority Leader, Mr. Ndidi Elumelu, at the plenary, also frowned at the obsolete and substandard weapons being paraded by the Armed Squad unit of the service, despite over 1 billion naira budget provision for the prison biometrics, arms and ammunition in the 2020-2021 capital budget.
The House is aware of the deaths of correctional officers and men across the country following attacks either on escort vehicles or custodial facilities.
Mr. Elumelu had in his motion, among other allegations, raised the observation that staff of the service still make their uniform, just as inmates have no uniforms.
The House further observed that in addition to allegations of no-utilization of budget allocations in the manner prescribed by National Assembly and administrative incompetence of drivers of the change in the rebranded service, there are also claims of unscrupulous staff promotion, denial of rights and benefits, including hazard and duty toll allowances leveled against the management of the service. The House is concerned that the moralizing effects of these allegations, given increasing evidences of susceptible of some officers and men compromising security of custodial facilities, might worsen violations of these facilities and current security challenges in the country. The House is also concerned that the appalling state of custodial facilities and general welfare of inmates post-NC National Correction Service Act is worrisome and requires immediate attention.
The Green Chamber, which expressed worry that the situation is impeding optimal operation by the service, mandated its Committee on Reformatory Institutions to investigate the allegations and report back within 12 weeks for further legislative action. Similarly, Nigerian Army and Nigerian Correctional Service have endorsed proposal by its Senate to increase the number of justices from 90 to 110. Both institutions made the submission during a public hearing on Court of Appeals Act Amendment Bill 2021 in Abuja. Our correspondent Topsy Gimba covered the public hearing and our reports.
Speaking during the public hearing, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, represented by Director of Legal Services Army, Major General M.U. Wambai, supported the provision of amendment of the appeal court, which sought to increase the number of justices from 90 to 110, adding that the amendment is in accordance with extant laws. He just opposed the bill with the Court of Appeal Amendment Act 2013. The Nigerian Army opined that the amendment of Section 1 of the Principal Act is in accordance with extant laws.
Army further advocates for the appointment of retired service personnel from the legal services of the armed forces to the Court of Appeal to serve as assessors.
Earlier in his presentation, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, Senator Kwemi Bamidele, said the bill sought to increase number of justices from 90 to 110 to allow for creation of more divisions of the court. He added that the bill is intended to bring court closer to litigants in order to ensure speedy disposal of cases and declog the docket of the court.
As it is one of the most viable mechanisms the legislature utilizes in order to gauge public viewpoints on legislative activities. This is in realization of the fact that laws are made for the people, and any law made by the National Assembly must be people-oriented for it to be able to stand the test of time. It is on the strength of this that the current Ninth Senate, in line with its legislative agenda, deemed it necessary to conduct public hearings on bills and motions before legislative decisions are taken.
The bill was sponsored by Senator Chukwuka Godfrey Utazi. Enugu North Senatorial District said the bill will make the court to exercise appellate jurisdiction to the exclusion of any other court of law in Nigeria over decisions of lowest courts.
The court is seized with original jurisdiction over presidential election petitions and any question as to whether the term of office of the president or vice president has ceased, or whether the office of the president or vice president has become vacant. The court also exercises appellate jurisdiction to the exclusion of any other court of law in Nigeria over divisions of the Federal High Court, High Court of the FCT, High Court of a State, Sharia Court of FCT, Sharia Court of Appeal of a State, customary court of the FCT, customary court of appeal of a state, and from decisions of court martials or other tribunals as may be prescribed by Act of the National Assembly.
The public hearing came to a close with the chairman of the committee assured those who participated at the public hearing that the report will be presented at the plenary of the Red Chamber for consideration. Topsy Gimba, ASO Television News.
And it's a wrap on the program today. Thanks for watching. I am Rosemary Ukokutega.